All right, what's up, everyone? This is Kayvon Ezami with Fighting Chance Fantasy. You can follow me on Twitter at Kayvon_sports. You see that right there. You can also follow the fight. If you haven't already, you should be the Fighting Chance Fantasy account, which is at FC Fantasy Sports. But if you haven't been following them, then you are missing out. So definitely get on that. Give me a follow as well at Kayvon_sports. So this is just something, look, betting has become a very big part in sports. I mean, and especially in the NFL, especially now that almost every state is legal, minus a couple, which one, North Carolina, the state I live in, is still a little slow behind, but hopefully we're coming soon. So I enjoy betting. I like to look at the lines. Like to look at how the lines affect what we believe is going to happen in the game, how the lines affect what we believe is going to happen in fantasy, which is what we all love to do every single Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. So I do pretty well at kind of looking at these lines and finding value and finding the right side to be on. So I thought, why not do a little show each week, kind of just going over some of the things that I'm seeing, some of the picks that I like, and we'll just go through the games. Look, we're not going to go through every game. We'll go through a lot of the games, and we're going to just talk about some of the nuggets, some of the stats, some of the things that I'm looking for. I'll give you guys some. When I say I'm betting this game, I'm actually picking this game, then you guys know I'm actually betting that game. If I'm not, I'll tell you guys where I'm kind of leaning and what I'm seeing from the public, what I'm seeing from the sharp bettors, and you guys can use that information however you want. It's all about having fun here. It's all about just another way to talk about this beautiful sport of the NFL that we all love. I also will give you guys some college football picks. I love college football. I'm sure you all do as well. So let's get started on this. Once again, this is Fighting Chance Fantasy. I am your host, Kayvon Ezami, and we're going to roll through the games and look at week one, baby. Week one is here, and I'm pumped up. I hope you guys are as well. And let's go through the lines here. All right, so I want to start with the Jets-Panthers. Look, usually when you look at the Jets-Panthers, and no disrespect to the Jets and the Panthers fan bases or their teams thereof, it doesn't really pedaz, right? Like, it's not something that's going to just pop on the screen and we're all going to be super excited about that. It's more of something where it's two teams where we're like, not this year. Look, this year, I think both of these teams are going to be exciting teams to watch. We all know the storylines for this game. Sam Darnold versus his old team, right? Team that picked him 3 overall a couple of years ago, and it never worked out. Whether that was Sam Darnold's fault, whether that was Adam Gase's fault, whether that was the Jets organization's fault, that's up for all of us to decide and for you to decide, and we'll leave it at that. But the Carolina Panthers clearly felt that they could take a shot on him. They clearly felt that he had something that they felt like they could fix. So this game is Panthers are favored by 4. Carolina is home for this game, and the over-under is pretty low. It's a 44 total, all right? That is a pretty low over-under. All right, so this is in Carolina, as I said. They're favored by 4. Zach Wilson versus Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is obviously going to want to impress against his former team, while Zach Wilson's obviously going to want to impress in his first start. So a couple things to note here right off the bat, which most of you probably already know. Jamison Crowder, who is one of the best slot wide receivers in the league and does not get his justice for that, is out. So that's a big part there, okay? I think that Sam Darnold has been poorly coached his entire career in New York. I don't even think that's a debate, okay? And now, finally, he's got a good head coach. He's got a brilliant offensive mind in Joe Brady. I am high on the Panthers this year because of Joe Brady. Joe Brady is going to be an NFL head coach in the league soon, and I'm just throwing this out there, the Bengals. If Zach Taylor doesn't do a good job this year, Joe Brady, Joe Burrow reuniting in Cincinnati is something that I see happening. But we put that aside. I really like what I think Joe Brady's going to be able to do with Sam Darnold and with the weapons that Sam Darnold will have around him. Zach Wilson looked great in the regular season. He looked awesome. We have to be careful because we can't get too excited about the about the postseason, but he looked really good during the postseason. One thing that I think that Zach Wilson and the Jets have really going for him, kind of like the Panthers, is I really like the scheme that Mike LaFleur will be running in New York. Very similar to what his brother runs in Green Bay and to what Kyle Shanahan runs out west in San Francisco, which is where Mike is coming from, okay? He's coming with Robert Saleh out east to the Jets. I love his scheme. He is going to make things simple for Zach Wilson to start off the receiver. He is going to scheme his receivers open, and that's going to do wonders for a rookie quarterback starting in the NFL. With that being said, I think this is a really tough ask for Zach Wilson and the Jets to pull off. The Panthers are at home. The Panthers have a young defense that is getting better and better. I think Brian Burns is going to have a breakout sophomore season. I think he's going to have double-digit sacks. And I think Vegas has this line right. I think -4, -3.5, wherever you can get it. I think it's right. I think the Panthers deserve to be favored by that much. And I think Vegas is kind of dead on here. With that being said, I like the over. And if I had to pick a side, I like the Panthers. If I was to pick a side, I would pick the Panthers. I do think the Panthers win this game. I wish I picked the Panthers at -3, -3.5. Now that it's moving up to -4. See, the thing about the NFL, those half a points, those full points are so important. We saw that on Thursday night already. The first half line on Thursday night started out with the Bucks -4. It ended with the Bucks -5.5. If you got the Bucks -4, you cashed that first half bet. If you got them towards the end at 5.5, you lost on that first half bet. So that's how important 1 or a half a point can be in the NFL. So because the line has gone up a little bit, I do still like the Panthers in this one to win, but I like the over most importantly. I think that the Jets defense is decimated. They've already had some big injuries to big players. I don't think they're going to be that good this year on defense, but I do think they're going to score points. And I do think that the Panthers are going to score a lot of points. So give me the over 44 to start this game, this week 1 season. And that's a bet that I actually am placing. So very high on the Panthers here. And look, one last thing. We've seen the Adam Gase effect happen, right? You leave Adam Gase, you start to become a good football player once again. Shocking, right? Happened to Ryan Tannehill, and I think it's going to happen to Sam Darnold again here in Carolina under a really good offensive coordinator in Joe Brady. I like the Panthers to win, but most importantly, I like the over 44 in this game. Let's move on to the Titans at home against Arizona. Over-under is 51 or 52, depending on what your book has it at. The Titans -3. Look, this is a daily fantasy and regular fantasy players' dream game. We are going to have points. We are going to have big-time players playing on both sides of the ball, and there are going to be a ton of interest from all of you fantasy players out there, okay? This is a game that will be very fun to watch. I'll be fascinated to see how Julio Jones mixes in with the Titans offense. Let's remember, Arthur Smith, the Titans OC the last couple of years, who has done a great job with that team, is now the head coach of Atlanta. How does that affect this offense? Does it affect the offense at all? Is there going to be any regression? What are we going to see from this offense? And on the Arizona side of things, look, we all know this is a huge year for Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals team. I mean, it's just they went all out this offense, getting as many offensive weapons as they could. They went and got J.J. Watt on the defensive end. Chandler Jones wanted to be out, but it looks like he's staying. They've got to win. They got to have a winning season this year, and I think they have to make the playoffs for Cliff to be safe. Kyler Murray has made a jump every single year he's been in the league. And I think him and, Hopkins with another season under their belt, another offseason under their belt, I think they'll have a really good rapport this year. Maybe Christian Kirk will get going. I like Rondé Moore. We'll see what A.J. Green can bring to the whole offense. But there's a lot of pressure on Arizona here. There's a lot of pressure. I'm leaning to the Titans -3 in this game, okay? I also really like the over. I think we have a lot of points coming on both sides. I think the Titans' defense will be better this year, but I think it's going to take some time before they really get going. Okay, so to right off the bat, I don't see either team stopping the other team. I think that we have a lot of points, and one stat for you here. since Ryan Tannehill has taken over as the starting QB in Tennessee, the Titans are 21-4-1 to the over. 21-4-1. That is a massive difference in going over versus under. So, in other words, I think this is a high-scoring game. I'm taking the over. It's a high total, but I'm taking the over, and I also lean to the Tennessee Titans -3 on the side as well. My favorite bet, though, is going with the over. But if you like the Titans, I cannot stop you there because, again, I think that they will be I think that they will end up winning this game. It might just be by a last-second field goal, which is why I'm more towards the over. All right, Chargers at the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Look, Chargers are favored by 1, okay? They're at the Washington football team. The over-under is 44.5, 44.5. The Chargers have a new head coach in Brandon Staley. As we all know, Washington has a new starting quarterback, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Ryan Fitzpatrick. So look, there's a lot of hype around the Chargers, and rightfully so. I get it. Justin Herbert was remarkable last year. But let's understand, they have a new head coach, a new left tackle, a rookie left tackle for that instance, and there are some big question marks right now with Austin Eckler and his health. We believe he's going to play. On Friday, Brandon Staley said he's optimistic, but it's not good going into the first game with an injury. He could easily get hurt right away and come on out. We pray that doesn't happen, but that's something that I'm worried about. And to be honest with you, I don't understand this line right here. This is the first game that we've talked about where I'm confused by this line. I think the other two lines, I think they were spot on or close to it by Vegas. This one doesn't make sense to me. I know the Chargers play very well on the road because they are always pretty much playing on the road because they don't have a home fan base pretty much. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's just the truth, right? So maybe the NFL is not factoring that in. And I get the whole Herbert hype. And again, I'm all on Herbert hype. I think he's going to be a phenomenal quarterback. I think he already is a phenomenal quarterback. But Ryan Fitzpatrick is 13-5 against the spread in his last 18 starts, ladies and gentlemen. 13-5. And I think he is an upgrade from Alex Smith just because of where Alex Smith was in his career last year, right? I'm not saying he's a better quarterback all around than Alex Smith, but where Alex Smith was in his career, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is a huge upgrade. We all know about the Washington football team's awesome defense. It's maybe the best defense in the league. They have some emerging stars on offense in McLaurin and Gibson. I think that Gibson is going to be a fantasy stud this year. I think that they are going to pound the ball with him as much as possible. I love Ron Rivera. As a Falcons fan, I can tell you I've watched Ron Rivera many, many times, and he is a phenomenal coach. I think Washington is going to be better this year. I think they're going to be way better than they were last year. They have more continuity with the team and the head coach. And while I like the Chargers, there are still a lot of questions that we need to answer. Is Brandon Staley a good coach? This is his first time being a head coach in the NFL. Is he a good coach? He had 1 year as the defensive coordinator with the Rams, a phenomenal year to put it out there, but is he a good coach? We do not know. So does Herbert continue on the trajectory he's on? I believe so. I believe so. I think he's too good. Can Austin Eckler stay healthy? Can Mike Williams finally step up in that wide receiver 2 spot? There are a lot of questions with this team that I think they will figure out as they go. But to go into Washington week 1 against that vaunted defensive line with a rookie left tackle, with a question mark at running back, and their backup running back, while I like Justin Jackson, he's a big dip from Austin Eckler. This is one of my favorite plays of the week. By far, this is one of my favorite plays of the week. I am all over the Washington football team on this one. +1, even if they move. I think they will move, by the way, so get this out as soon as you can because I think by kickoff on Sunday, they're going to be a favorite. I think the line's going to keep on moving. You can take them on the money line, whatever. I see Washington winning this game. I don't understand. I don't understand this line. Maybe it's a trap line. Maybe I'm not seeing something, but I do not understand this line. Give me Washington all day of the week here. All right, the next game, my team, the Atlanta Falcons, hosting one of our great contributors at Fighting Chance Fantasy's team, Brian Drake's Philadelphia Eagles. Brian, maybe we'll have to put a little side wager on this. We'll have to talk about that off the air here. So Eagles at Falcons. The Falcons are favored by 3 at home. The over-under is 48. Look, I mean, this is two teams here. Two teams with brand new head coaches in Arthur Smith for the Falcons and Mr. Sweet Talker himself, Nick Sirianni for the Eagles. Look, these are two teams where if you're going to tell me you know a lot about either of these teams, you're lying to me and you're lying to yourself. No one knows what these teams are going to be like. These teams are two of the teams with the biggest question marks by their name coming into this season. And I have no happiness saying that as a Falcons fan. These are two teams that in the preseason, they looked awful. Awful. Both teams look terrible. I mean, Jalen Hurts, look, he barely played. He had that whole hospital issue. But when he did play, it wasn't great. When Joe Flacco played, it wasn't great. Arthur Smith showed absolutely nothing in preseason. We saw Kyle Pitts play one snap where he did take on 3 defenders, I must say, and it looked very, very good. But Mike Davis didn't play. Matt Ryan didn't play. Calvin Ridley didn't play. Russell Gage didn't play. None of these guys played. We have no idea how that offense is going to look. All we can go off is the personnel on the field and the players that we know from them playing previous seasons before, right? Personally, my own numbers, so I make my own numbers for each game. My numbers have the Falcons favored by 4 here. So technically, going by my numbers, there is some value on the Falcons because Vegas has them by 3. I have them by 4. That would equal value, right? That means that we have some value on the Falcons side. So if you're looking at it in terms of value, which that's what sports betting is all about, is finding the right value, then the Falcons would be the right side here. With that being said, they have a great offense. They have a lot of really good pieces, but they don't have really much going for them on defense. I know Dean Pease comes in, who is a excellent coach, and he's going to be such a good mentor to these guys. And we've seen him, what he's done with defenses in the past, but I don't know if he has the horses on this team to turn this defense into something right off the bat here. I just need to see more from this Falcons team before I can bet them, especially bet them as a favorite. It's really hard to bet a team as a favorite, remember this, that you don't know much about. That's why week 1 is you have to be willing to hit the brakes and pause, right? How good of a head coach is Nick Sirianni? How good of a play caller will he be? Remember, Frank Wright was calling most of the plays in Indianapolis. So what are we going to see from Sirianni as a coach? If anything, I think I would maybe look at the over because I don't think that the Falcons will be able to stop Jalen Hurts, which, by the way, I think Jalen Hurts is going to be a great play in daily fantasy this week or season-long fantasy. I think he's going to be able to run on this Falcons defense. I also am all in on Kyle Pitts this week. I like him to score a touchdown as a prop bet. I like him as a daily fantasy player because the Eagles last year were one of the worst teams to defend the tight end. Bottom half of the league. They bottom 5 actually in the league when it came to defending the tight end last year. I see that continuing. They didn't make any big splashes on defense where they're going to be able to stop the big tight ends right away. I think Pitts comes out and makes a big debut. I like him in props. I like him in fantasy. So if I had to bet this game, I might end up grabbing the over on this one, but I have not bet this game yet. Again, there are too many question marks here. My numbers say the Falcons should be favored by 4. Do of that with what you will. The over-under is 48. I do think we see some scoring. I think that maybe you could look at some props for Jalen Hurts' rushing attack. And I think you could look at some props for Kyle Pitts. Those are the two things that I'm looking at in this game. But when it comes to the total, I'm leaning towards the over. The side, too many question marks. All right, let's move on here as we are rolling away week 1 here. Kayvon Ezami, Fighting Chance Fantasy. Let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks, favored by 3 at Indianapolis. Over-under is 49. Carson Wentz is scheduled to play this week. We have heard that now. Whenever Russell Wilson, nugget for you, travels to the East Coast or the Eastern time, he is really, really good. That is something that Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson have been really good at during their careers. They travel well. They plan well. A lot of teams are droggy coming over from the West, not this team. But what's interesting about this game, and this is where Vegas is, I find this stuff really interesting. I'm a nerd, maybe that's why, but for those that don't follow these lines in depth like I do, we have to remember, these lines came out months ago. They have been out for a long, long time. And when the first line came out for this game, the Colts and Carson Wentz were favored by 3. They were favored, okay? Then Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson went out, and it's flipped. And now the Seahawks are favored, okay? So that's a really interesting part of this, right? So Vegas was telling us before all these injuries happened, they liked the Colts at home here. Now the injuries happen, and rightfully so, they're a little bit speculative on it, right? So this is another one that I'm struggling with, to be honest. I think the Colts have a Super Bowl roster everywhere. I do. And I think Carson Wentz is a really good quarterback. I know there's a lot of hate out there about Carson Wentz. I like Carson Wentz. I think Philly did Carson Wentz. I think they did him dirty. I don't think they did anything to improve his career the last couple of years. A fresh start with familiar faces in Frank Wright. I think Carson Wentz, if he can stay healthy, has a great season. Okay? Obviously, we know everything about Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. I like the under on this game. The under is now, the total is now at 49. I think that it goes up to 50 at some point. So if you like the under, hold off. That's one thing I always want to tell you guys. If you like the under in primetime games or just big games, I know this isn't a primetime game, but this is a big game, 2 big teams. Always hold off on betting the under. Why? Because the public's always going to bet the over. Because average Joe and average Nancy are going to be sitting on their couch before the game, and if they want to bet on it, they're going to want to see points. Nobody wants to bet on a defensive game, right? So they're going to bet on the over, which means the number is going to go up, 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 which means then us sharps, I like to call myself a sharp, I don't really know if I am, will come in and bet the under. No one likes betting the under. It's lame, it's boring, but I do if it involves winning. And I think that for this game right here, I like the under. Because listen, Carson Wentz has been out the entire offseason, pretty much. So yes, he knows Frank Wright, and yes, he knows the playbook, but he still needs some time to get used to his receivers, his weapons, his O-line, all that stuff. He hasn't had that. And because of that, I think the Colts lean heavy on Jonathan Taylor in this game. I think they run the ball as much as they can. And I think Jonathan Taylor has a really good game controlling the clock. And then we also know with Seattle, Pete Carroll is happy if he has a second half lead to run the ball. He's not one of those guys that's going to just tick, 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 tick up the score and blow you out. That's not going to happen. He's going to grind the clock out. He's going to give the ball to Chris Carson. He's going to do screen passes. He's just going to play to win the game. That's it. He's not going to play to dominate the game or destroy the game or destroy his opponent. He's not looking to impress anyone and put up 45 or 35 points. No. He is just trying to run the ball and get out. With that and with what I said with the Colts and Carson Wentz, I love the Colts defense this year. I think that they will have one of the best defenses in the league. I think their defensive line is amazing. There are some questions in the back end that we have to look at, but they have a really good pass rush. They have some great linebackers. So I think when you put all of that together, I'm on the under here. I think we see a low-scoring game. If you have the kickers, right? Hey, we got to talk. The kickers are important. If you have Myers, if you have Rodrigo, those are guys I would be starting in fantasy because I think we're going to have a lot of field goals. I think there's going to be a lot of drives that stall out in the 30 to the red zone, end up on some field goals. I'm liking the under on this game. Wait, see if it ticks up to 50, and then take the under. This is Fighting Chance Fantasy. I am Kayvon Ezami. All right, let's dive into another one here. The Minnesota Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. Vikings are favored by 3. Over-under is 48.5. To give you guys an idea, the Vikings started out favored as 3. It jumped up to 3.5, and now it's back to 3. Some books still have it at 3.5. Always shop around and try and get the best line. I'm telling you, once again, in the NFL, those half a points and those full points matter so much. Shop around and see the best line that you can get. So this line's been out for months, and it stayed right around the same. What does that mean? That means Vegas likes where this line is, and that means that so does pretty much everyone else, right? There hasn't been enough betting on it to raise or lower the line. I think the Vikings win this game. I'm all in on the Vikings here. Look, they were limited defensively last year because they had a ton of absences, whether that was opting out for the season or injuries. They lost 3 of their top cornerbacks, and we knew that their defense was going to struggle last year. I called that, and a lot of people did. It's going to be much better this year. Mike Zimmer's too good of a coach. He's a defensive-minded coach. Their defense will not be nearly as bad this year as it was last year. They bring in Patrick Peterson, who still has some talent left. They bring in some other players. But more importantly, this is a play against Joe Burrow. I like Joe Burrow. I really like Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is going to be a stud in this league. And I like the direction that the Bengals are heading. They have some phenomenal pieces, young pieces on the offensive side of the ball. He played 1 drive in the preseason, and I don't even think we can call that a drive, to be honest with you. He pretty much just went out there for 3 plays. There is no doubt going to be some rust that Joe Burrow will have to shake off. It's not even a question. And I'm not just talking physical rust. There's going to be mental rust that he's going to have to shake off as well. It's going to be tough for him to get back to being comfortable in the pocket right away. He will get there, and he'll be fine. He'll be totally fine. But right away, that's going to be really hard for him to just kind of chill out, and when he starts to feel pressure, to do what he's used to doing. I think right away, the Vikings are going to understand this. I think Mike Zimmer is going to go into this game dialing up the pressure, dialing up the blitz. I think after the Vikings defense was so bad last year, they are going to come out and try and make a statement this year. And I think they're going to get off on the right foot. I could see them having a defensive touchdown. I could see a couple turnovers, maybe a strip sack, interception. I do not like Zach Taylor. I think he is hanging on by a thin shred. I don't think he's that good of a defensive coach. I like Joe Burrow again, and I like the offense, but I just think the coaching advantage goes to the Vikings. I think the offense goes to the Vikings, and I think the defense goes to the Vikings. So when you put all those together, I'm taking the Vikings. Look, it might be a trap play. It might be a square play, whatever you want to call it. I'm on the Vikings here. I think that Mike Zimmer is going to know what Joe Burrow is going through, and he's going to dial up the pressure right off the start. I think the Vikings win this game. I even like the Vikings team total. I think they score a lot of points. Give me the Vikings -3 on this one. That is a game that I have officially bet. All right, let's move on to the most exciting game of the weekend. The Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. 2 powerhouse teams going at it. We know that. Jacksonville is favored by 2.5 in Houston, and the total is around 45, 46. So a little nugget here, okay? Little nugget here. The number 1 overall pick, that's a quarterback, okay? It's got to be a quarterback. They don't win their first game playing in the NFL. The last time a number 1 overall pick has won their opening start, anybody know it? Ding, 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 David Carr. Which is funny because he played for the Texans. So maybe it comes full circle here and Lawrence will get it done against the Texans. But that's something to take notice of. Look, some of these nuggets, they're nothing, they're little, whatever. I think that's a serious nugget. It's telling us that they need to adjust. It's telling us that they're the number 1 overall pick for a reason. Why? Because the team that they're on sucks. That's why. They are there to rebuild this team. And Jacksonville is not a good team. They've got good pieces, but they're not a good team. Andrew Luck's never won his first game. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray actually tied his first game, which is kind of crazy if you guys remember that, to the Lions. But it's been since David Carr. So, look, I know most people look at this game and immediately think, why in the hell would I bet on the Texans? I get it, right? With everything that's happened this game, you know, with this offseason, with Deshaun Watson not being there, with Tyrod Taylor, they also have Davis Mills. We all feel like the coach they hired was just there to be a dummy and take the hits. Like, I get it. And then you look at Trevor Lawrence, who a lot of people think is the best prospect coming out of college in a long, long time, which I agree with that. I really am high on Trevor Lawrence, and he's going to be so good. So good. But it's going to take time. And they have a really bad offensive line. And they already lost their first-round pick in Travis Etienne. Their defense is horrible. And Tyrod Taylor, whether you want to admit it or not, is a decent quarterback. He actually has a winning record as a starting QB in the NFL. You know how hard that is to have a winning record as a starting QB in the NFL? Tyrod has that. He can and has won football games. And I think that he can win this game. Look, as shocking as it sounds, I'm not going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars as road favorites. They won one game last year. And now I'm supposed to take them as a road favorite? Everyone be careful, because so many people are going to pick Jacksonville for their survivor pick this week, or San Francisco, which we're about to get into in a minute, or the Rams, which we'll get into as well. To be a favorite on the road is Vegas screaming at you and screaming at me saying, please take this Jacksonville team. Because we all know that you know what happened in Houston this year. We all know Deshaun Watson's not coming out there to play quarterback. Please, Houston has nothing going for them. They're a dumpster fire. Take this Jacksonville team. I'm not doing it. You shouldn't do it. I shouldn't do it. If you don't want to take Houston, fine. Do not take Jacksonville, though. Maybe they win this game. Maybe they win this game by 40, but this game smells like a trap to me. Jacksonville has no business being favored on the road after winning one game last year. I don't care who they're playing. That's just not how it works. What I do think happens, though, I think we see some points in this game. I think there's two terrible defenses. I think Brandon Cooks will have a great game. I think James Robinson will run all over Houston. And I like the over here. I think the over is the safest pick. And I also think Texans, I would even take a little piece of Texans on the money line. I think that they can win this game. I think that they can cover this game. But my favorite bet is I think we see a lot of points. I'm going over 45.5 here. But don't fall for the trap, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Jacksonville wins by 40, but that's fine. Let that happen. Don't fall for the trap, because it just seems too easy. Let's move on to an actual marquee matchup of the weekend. The Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Buffalo. Buffalo is favored by 6.5. The over-under is at 48. Look, I like Pittsburgh here. I'll come right off the bat. I like Pittsburgh at 6.5. I really like Pittsburgh's defense, and nothing travels better in the NFL than a good defense on the road. I think Big Ben will be healthy to at least start the season. I think the public's going to bet all over the Bills here. And I don't know if I will actually bet this one, because Josh Allen could come out and drop 50 and make me look bad. But I have a heavy lean right now on Pittsburgh at 6.5, and I probably will end up betting that game. All right, then I'm all in on Pittsburgh. Look, again, Buffalo is going to be a really good team this year. They're going to win 13, 12 games. But right off the bat, Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season. He's going to have this team ready to go. Najee Harris is going to be better. The offensive line is going to be better. They have weapons. I like Pittsburgh plus 6.5, and I also like the over here. I think we see a lot of overs coming out of the gate. I think we see a lot of scoring coming out of the gate, and I think both of these teams are going to put up some points, so I would also look at the over. All right, another game here that might as well be called the survivor game of the week, and that is the San Francisco 49ers, now up to -8, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I think -9 is the most recent line I see here. Yeah, -9. All right, so look, another nugget for you. When is the last time we have seen a team favored by more than 7 points on the road week one? It's been a long time. A long, long time. Teams favored by more than 7 points on the road are 1-8 in the last 9 week one games. 1-8. Okay? The over-under is 45, so that's a low total. Look, people are going to be all over the 49ers in this one, and I get it. The fighting, biting kneecaps don't have a lot going for them right now, all right? Other than Dan Campbell might literally come out on the field and tackle you yourself. So 49ers players, be careful, because if you get loose, He might just tackle you before you get in the end zone. But Dan Campbell's a maniac. We all know that. I don't know how good of a coach he's actually going to be. But one thing I do know about him is he is going to have this team playing hard. This team is going to play with heart, and this team is going to play hard. And I actually think that Detroit is going to give a lot of teams some problem this year. I don't think they win a lot of games, but I do think that they cover a lot of games. What I mean by that is I don't think they get blown out week in and week out. I think they put up a fight because they're going to be a team with heart. They're a young team. They have a really good offensive line, even though Taylor Decker is out of this game, and that's why the spread is now up to -9 instead of 6.5. For those that wondered, it started out as 6.5. Now San Francisco's up to -9 because the Detroit Lions offensive line, really good offensive lineman, Taylor Decker, is out. Okay, so that's one thing to look at. But look, I know that the 49ers had a lot of injuries last year. They went 6-10, ladies and gentlemen. They went 6-10. They have a QB under center that they don't even want because they traded a bunch of picks to go up and get Trey Lance. Whether they want to tell you they like Jimmy G or not, they wouldn't have done that if they really liked Jimmy G. So, yes, they had a lot of injuries, but they went 6-10 last year. They have a QB under their belt that they don't like. I'm not going to lay 6.5 points on the road with this team, or now it's 9 points, excuse me. I just can't do that. I'm not going to do that. What I do like in this game, though, is I like the under. I like the under. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring, drugged-out defensive game with a lot of time coming off the clock running the ball. We know the 49ers love to run the ball, and I think the Lions are going to try and pound the ball as well on the ground. I think this is an ugly game, guys. I think this is a really ugly game, and I think that this game goes under, but I think the 49ers win the game, don't get me wrong, but I'm not betting them to cover by 9 points. That's just too much in my mind. All right, so one other NFL game that I like, just to wrap this all up here. I also like the under on the Patriots-Dolphins game. Brian Flores knows Bill Belichick very well. Bill Belichick knows how to stop Tua very well. I think this game goes under. I don't think we see a lot of points here. I think this is also a very ugly running type defensive game. I like the over on that. And to wrap it up here, ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Fighting Chance Fantasy. I am your host, Kayvon Ezami. Follow me on Twitter at Kayvon_sports. If you like this, we're going to do this every week, so I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you guys can take some knowledge out of it and hopefully get some winners. A couple of college games that I like just to wrap this up here. Ohio State and Oregon, over 64. Over 64. I also like Ohio State to win by more than 14. That's 14.5. I like them to win by more. I like TCU -11. And I like Liberty -4. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't watched Liberty play, go and watch them this week. They have a quarterback named Malik Willis. He is a stud. He is so fun to watch, and he is a stud, and he's going to be drafted very high coming soon. All right, so Liberty -4, TCU -11, Ohio State -4, and Ohio State and Oregon over 64. Those are the college games I like. You got my NFL thoughts. I also will do an article on Fighting Chance Fantasy before kickoff to run through some of the games I like as well. Once we get all the full information in, because some information comes in late through Vegas. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you, everyone, for listening. Once again, this is Fighting Chance Fantasy. I am your host, Kayvon Ezami. Have fun. Enjoy your week one. Win your fantasy leagues. Win your fantasy matchups. We'll be back to talk to you more next week.